Okay, this is sweet Cicily, and it's one of these plants that is a nice, either it's a nice treat for people who like the flavor of anise or licorice, or it's a good medicinal for a couple different things. And sweet Cicily here is one of these plants that teach us that to harvest wild medicinals, wild edibles, you need to use more than just, you know, your sense of sight. In this plant, you need to know your sense of smell and your sense of touch. And sweet Cicily, the reason for this is sweet Cicily has many of the same characteristics as water hemlock. And water hemlock is a deadly poison. Sweet Cicily is not. Now, I don't think of it as looking like water hemlock, but people have confused the two, and so we're just going to go over a couple things that are different about it. The first thing is they both have the white umbral flowers. Both these ones are coming to the end. These umbral flowers are, and they're coming into their seed pod stage. Seed pods on sweet Cicily will stick to your clothes. So, but they do both have the white umbral flower. I think of water hemlock as having a slightly more full umbral flower than the sweet Cicily. Sweet Cicily just seems to be kind of a little, you know, usually it's the four groupings of the umbrals. But the other thing is sweet Cicily has hair on the stems. If you feel it, if you look, you can see there are little hairs. And you can also feel them. There's hairs on the underside of the leaves. The leaves kind of have almost a velvety kind of feel to them. That's big way of distinguishing sweet Cicily from water hemlock. Water hemlock has smooth stems. Sweet Cicily also tends to like to grow in dry places, while water hemlock tends to like to grow in wet places, but that's not something that I would, you know, go as 100%. But the main thing is sweet Cicily smells like licorice, while water hemlock doesn't smell like licorice. Let's put it that way. It doesn't smell. It has an odor to it, but to me, that's one of the things. If you're wearing gloves and you come across a water hemlock plant or somebody points it out, take that water hemlock and crush a leaf and smell it, and that will be your main way of knowing it for the rest of your life. It has an odor that says water hemlock. But water hemlock also, the poisons in it can be absorbed through the skin. Usually it doesn't kill you that way, but it can get you stoned, and if you have a bad heart, it can also do damage to your heart, just absorbing the poisons through your skin. So don't be going up and just crushing a leaf of a plant you don't know. But here, sweet Cicily does have an anise smell. The smell is strongest in its roots. But if you crush up sweet Cicily's, the anise, it has an anise smell in the seeds, in the stems, and in the leaves, and in the roots. The strongest smell is in the roots. So if you have already ID'd it, you know, it's got the fuzzy stem, and its umbral is a little bit less than perfect, then kind of crush the leaf up and see if it has an anise smell. Now, some people can't detect it in the leaves, but if you've looked down and you've got this hairy stem, dig those roots up, and that's where you'll find it. You'll find that they have a very strong anise smell, the roots do. And sweet Cicily, like most anise flavored, we got poison ivy right over here, but like most anise flavored plants, are really good for stomach aches. If you have gas, it helps. This one isn't as good as some, but it can help you digest, build up your digestive system if your digestive system is a bit weak, but it helps you eliminate gas. And it's good for motion sickness. You can take the roots and candy them, and if you like the anise flavor, some people don't like ginger flavor. I myself like the ginger flavor. I'm not a big anise flavor person, but some people are the exact opposite. And ginger is another thing for motion sickness, and if you don't like ginger flavor, you can use this in its stead, the root of this, and you candy it up just like you candy ginger. Scrub the root up and bury it in sugar until the sugar in it changes. Anyway, but the one thing that it's really good for is this plant has a slightly sweeter than most, its roots are slightly sweeter than most, but it's a sugar that's easily digestible, as most wild unprocessed sugars are. All living things contain sugars. Some sugars we can process, some sugars we can't. This plant here has its sugars are very, very easy for us to process. So it's a good plant for somebody who's diabetic or borderline diabetic, or has problems regulating their blood sugar, because your body isn't going to get the huge rush of sugar from eating this. If you like the flavor of licorice, this is a good thing to have as that bolster treat when you've had to give up sugar. You can eat the root here, and it's nice and sweet. You can add sugar to it. In fact, if you're candying it, then you do add sugar to it. But if you and that's a preservative, adding the sugar to it. But if you're not, if you're diabetic, obviously you're not going to add processed sugar to it. So then you can just dry it and chew on it, and again, it's that nice sweet. It enters into your mouth, kind of takes down cravings of sweetness, but it doesn't enter into your system. It's not going to be this huge sugar rush. So it's really good for diabetics. Some people, like most licorice flavored plants, will say it does help with your blood pressure, lowering your blood pressure, or at least regulating it, but lowering it if you have high blood pressure. Oh, I love the smell of the leaves. I know a lot of people can't smell that licorice smell, but I think licorice smells great. I just don't like the taste of it. But anyway, that's sweet Cicily. It is a pretty common, we've got a couple of them here. It is a pretty common weed in the eastern part of the United States. It likes usually drier areas. You're not going to find it down by the creeks. We're up in a aspen forest here, semi-open forest. It likes its shade, but it doesn't. It still likes a little bit of sun. Here's another one back here. I'm not going to walk all the way back. There's poison ivy there, but you can see. Focus in on it. There's one, and there's one. It's a pretty common plant. If you have kids that like that licorice flavor, you can go out in the woods and get them get them a much more healthy for them candy than licorice, which is nothing more than gelatin and flavoring and tons of sugar now. You can get themselves a much more healthy candy, and it's nice and sweet. They like the flavor, and you can add extra sugar to it, but you don't have to. Many people like it just the way it is, and for diabetics, that's great. But anyway, that's sweet Cicily. Has these are the last of the flowers here. Little tiny, nothing to write home about flowers. Compound leaves, hairy stem, and smells like licorice. Sweet Cicily.